Hello, everyone. Good afternoon to the first day of our pocket events as partnered with Manulife. My name is Chicho Cacho. I am the sourcing officer of Manulife Business Processing Services. We've been here in the company for more than 100 years, and now it's our time to embark on technology and to how we can better support technology professionals in the Philippines. So, I'd like to talk more about Manulife and how we partnered with PH Tech community and other communities in the technology space. So again, Manulife has been here in the Philippines for more than 100 years. In 2016, of being a global financial institution from Canada, we made a commitment to transform into a digital centric organization, and thus we are here to stay. Right? In 2017, Roy Gordy, our CEO of Manulife, stated that we need to transform our business to be much more of a technology driven company. We need to become a much more customer oriented organization, and quite frankly, the entire industry does. In many ways, if I'm absolutely honest, he said our industry is still in the dark ages. And again, as we embark on these changes, we are very much sure that now that we're in the middle of transformation, Manulife recognized the engineering talent we have in the Philippines. And I'm happy to share to everyone that we have a lot of opportunities in Manulife as we continue expanding. We had open roles for front, back end, full stack engineers, to quality test automation engineers, and a lot of opportunities we're seeing right now. In fact, we are looking at having 160 engineering targets for this year. And by next year, we're hoping to be at more than 200. So definitely, our team in technology is really expanding. As I mentioned a while ago, again, we are in a huge engineering transformation. We also help our employees transform into the best person that they can be. You're seeing right now that part of our transformation are different kinds of developmental opportunities for our employees, be it self-paced or instructor-led, going to LinkedIn Learning, Get Abstract, Percipio, Pluralsight, and now definitely our own Manulife University. We're also happy that it being a diverse um, organization, we also have our own way of how to onboard and upskill our employees. We have different programs in software engineering, reliability, from end to end delivery, Azure quality performance, and definitely becoming agile. Not only that, this transformation technology, we're also open to engineering students and non-engineering students. We're trying to attract more of our fresh graduates, especially during this pandemic, when it's quite challenging to find a job and go out there. So why not spend your time online and be with Manulife? Definitely, when you expect this, once you join Manulife, you learn and you work and learn with different squads globally. We also organize and participate in engagement activities like hackathons, hack it out across the globe. And definitely our interns have opportunity to work across in North America, be in the Philippines or in Canada. We are excited. So definitely if you'd like to know more about opportunities in Manulife and what we do, go visit developer.manulife.ph. Also, please follow us in our social media links that you're seeing right now, especially for MBPS, for facebook.com/MBPSSPH. And try to also go to our LinkedIn page, what you're seeing right now on the screen. I know you're all excited. This is a pocket event wherein two of our best um, employees who recently joined Manulife will talk about full stack JavaScript development with MERN. Get to know more about this, and it's ideal for developers who wants to learn a modern web development stack using just JavaScript as a language. Great way to introduce the developers to Manulife University, where we cover each technology. And as I mentioned a while ago, at the end of this session, Manulife is very generous to give out 5,000 worth of gift certificates in a contest that will have at the end of the session. So Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our speakers for today. We have Maricar Albarando and Ron Del Rosario.
Hello,
Thanks,
everyone.
Chicho, for the introduction.
Thank you.
Hey, everyone.
I hope you can see my screen. I'll be sharing now. All right. So, what I'm gonna talk about is full stack JavaScript development with MERN. So, to introduce myself, I'm Maricar Albarando. I'm senior full stack engineer at Manulife. In this session, we will learn the basics of MERN stack. We will go through each technology in the MERN stack and discuss how you can work with MongoDB, Node.js, and Express, React, and combining these technologies and how it works together. At the end of our session, we will be doing a movie library app. Medyo kamukha ng Netflix, pero hindi siya Netflix. So in this app, users can see a list of movies and have the ability to add a movie, which is saved persistently in our database. So we got a lot to cover. So let's get started. So what is MERN? MERN is, as you can see, a acronym which stands for MongoDB, Express.js, React, and Node.js. It enables you to build web applications using a single programming language. You guessed it right, JavaScript. So you could ask, is MERN a full stack? MERN is a full stack. So ano nga ba yung full stack? Full stack refers to the development of both front-end and back-end portions of the web application. So MERN allows you to easily construct the three-tier architecture. So for our front end, we have the React.js. It is a JavaScript front-end library for building user interfaces. For the back end, we have Node.js. It is a JavaScript runtime environment that executes JavaScript code outside of a browser. And then we have the Express.js on top of Node.js, which is a back-end web application framework for Node.js. And last, for our database tier, we have MongoDB. It is a document-based NoSQL database. First, let's discuss MongoDB. MongoDB is a NoSQL database. Ano nga ba yung NoSQL? So NoSQL, or not only SQL, are non-tabular and store data differently than relational database. So for NoSQL, we have different types of representation. One is the document-based, which is a sample of is MongoDB. It means that it stores the data in JSON-like documents, which is specifically called BSON. So it allows for flexible and dynamic schemas, making it high performant. MongoDB uses a MongoDB query language, just like SQL for relational databases, which is based on JavaScript. So hindi mo na kailangang aralin yung SQL since you already know JavaScript, you could easily adapt with MQL. Horizontal scaling, or also known as scale out, is made easier in Mongo by using sharding and replica sets. Unlike SQL, hindi siya supported out of the box, but with MongoDB, you could easily scale out your applications. So here's how the data stored in MongoDB looks like. Kung papansin nyo, it looks like JSON, but technically it is the native variation of JSON called BSON, which B stands for binary JSON. So as you can see here, we have the properties for our demo app, the movie model. And as you can see, we have your underscore ID. So ano ba yung underscore ID na to? So each document stored in a collection requires a unique ID field that acts as a primary key. So MongoDB driver automatically generates this if empty. So in MongoDB, a document is the unit of storage. So multiple documents are stored in a collection, and which in turn makes up a database. So you could say that documents are analogous to rows in an SQL table, but there's one big difference. It is possible that two documents have different sets of properties. That's why MongoDB is schemaless database. So what if we would like to enforce specific schema at the application layer in our application? We could use Mongoose. It is an object data modeling library, or ODM, for MongoDB and Node.js. It is the same with ORM if you're familiar with that. But ORM is for relational database, and for document database, we use ODM. So now we will have strongly typed schemas, validation support, and query building support. So let's get started with our server tier, which is the Node.js and Express. So if you're like me, madalas akong malito kung ano ba yung Node.js and ano ba yung Express. So hopefully ma-clear up natin yung confusion na yun. So Node.js is a runtime, JavaScript runtime built on Chrome's V8 JavaScript engine. So it enables us to write JavaScript which can run on our backend servers. So obviously hindi kasi natin pwedeng i-run yung browser sa backend. So itong Node.js, ito yung pwede natin gamitin para magkaroon tayo ng runtime sa backend natin. So Node.js has an asynchronous, event-driven, non-blocking I/O model that makes it lightweight and efficient. So what this means is instead of the process being blocked and waiting for a single I/O operation to complete, this waiting time is used to serve other requests, making our code efficient and performant. So Express is a server-side application framework for Node.js. You may ask, if you can write backend with Node.js, why do we need Express.js? Technically, you don't really need Express.js to write backend code. You can just code with vanilla Node.js for your backend. But Express.js simplifies the task of writing our server-side code. It makes the whole developer experience much better. Why? Because it is a fast and opinionated framework. It includes middleware modules. So middleware is custom pieces of code that can be installed in any request response processing, such as logging or authentication, etc. And also, it is easy to connect with databases such as MongoDB, which we need for MERN. Okay, so now I know narinig na yung React. So what is React? React is a declarative JavaScript library for rendering views and applications. Emphasis on the library, because React is commonly mistaken as a framework, but it is a library. So React is concerned only with rendering the UI and leaves many things up to each project to put together. So in short, unopinionated din siya. Declarative, ano pa yung declarative? It's like telling what to do instead how to do it. So in React, the DOM is declarative. This means that we never interact with DOM. The UI is updated as we change the state. At its core, it uses virtual DOM to process updates in the view. So by using virtual DOM, we can find out what has changed and only apply those changes to the real DOM instead of replacing the entire DOM, making our apps perform faster. It has a component-based architecture. We can create reusable components that are easier to develop and maintain. In React.js, we use JSX to easily write components with HTML and JavaScript. Also, we can build a SPA, single-page application. So SPA interacts by dynamically rewriting the page with new data instead of just reloading the page, which makes it slower for apps. Main advantage is speed. So it makes our app responsive and snappier. It is fast, simple, and scalable. It handles stateful interface with minimal code and minimal pain. So combining those four technologies, let's discuss how they work together. So in reference to our demo app later, let's assume that the user visits our landing page built using React. User wants to see the list of movies. So we don't have any movie data at this point because the state is empty, right? So we have to make an API call to backend using the REST API. So React will call our backend code to get the movie data. In our backend, Express looks at the endpoint. So in this case, slash movies. Sorry, and execute the appropriate controller function. So inside this function, we will use mongoose to query our MongoDB database for the movies data. After that, we retrieve the data from MongoDB, and our backend will return it in the form of JSON. And the JSON is sent back to our React frontend. Now we update the state to show the retrieved data. Since our state got updated, React will render those components which depend on it. So now user should now see the movie list. Alternatives. If you're familiar with MERN, we also have a meme and MEVN. I hope I pronounced that right. So, what's the difference between these technologies? Actually, the back end technologies are the same. We have MongoDB for our database, Express.js, as well as Node for our server tier. But we have different front end technologies. So for MERN, we use React. For Meme, we use Angular, and for MEVN, we use Vue.js. All right, so I hope you're now excited as much as I am for our demo app. So I just want to show this. I created a MongoDB instance in my local host. So as you can see here, we have a list of movies collection, and you can see the list of movie document. It's like the JSON, but it's a binary JSON. So I hope you could see the code clearly. All right. So in our demo app, we have here the client code and the server code. Let's now focus on our server code. So here in our package.json, we install a number of dependencies for our app, the cores, the .env, the express, and mongoose. Okay. So our main file name is the index.js. So let's start with that. So I'm going to discuss what this code means. All right. So first, we just import all the dependencies that we need. Next, we have the .env.config. What this do is you have the .env file here, and it will load all those properties in the process.env object, so you can access it. And we define the port and the db underscore URI. So the db underscore URI is basically our connection string. So now I'm using my local host and then the database name movies. You can also use Mongo Atlas for this if you want to. So in our index.js, we have to create a new instance of Express app. That's the first thing you need to do. And then for that app, you need to bind those middlewares that we talked about earlier. Sorry. So we have the express.json, which process our requests to JSON and formats it. And we have the cores to enable cores in our application. So for now, let's just use the root route and just display this welcome to MERN stack. And also right here, and we need to listen to the app port, which we identified as env port, or if it's not present, just use the 5000. And here we connect the mongoose to our database URI in our config. So it will console log that the connection is successful if connection is successful. So I'm going to start the server app. Okay. So I should be able to see the welcome, right, since it's the root route. That's not the root route. It's the root route. Okay, so now we have the welcome to MERN stack as intended. Okay, so what do we have to do to get our model data? So first, let's go to these models. I already created the file, but it's empty right now. So what we'll have to do is create our schema. So Mongoose is the one who is responsible for implementing our schema for MongoDB. So we create movie schema, and we have a number of properties like title, description, running time, release year, genres, which are an array of strings, and avatar. So as you can see, I am defining the types for each property. And I'm also requiring some properties like title, so description. And also I have this option timestamps to true. So it means that it will automatically create the created at and updated at for us. I'm naming this mongoose model movie, and I am passing this movie schema that we created to the model, and I'm exporting that mongoose movie model. So to to get that to for our business application logic, we'll use the movies controller. Um, so first we have to import that schema, right? Okay. So what we're gonna do is we have to get all the movies right here. So um, we are using the mongoose query movie.find to get all the movies that we have, and then sort it by created at descending order. And if it doesn't return an error, we'll just return the 200 status code and convert that movies array object into a JSON format. And if there's an error, just return the status with 404 and just return the error. So I might as well do the same thing with the post and the delete. So here we're just creating a new movie model. And the save function here is a promise. So we have to use await or async await. You can also do the promises like that. Then it's up to you really. So if it's successful, we return the 201 status and return the new movie, the created new movie as a JSON. If it's not, return an error. Same thing with delete movie, where we find by ID and delete based on the request params. So now what we have is just a controller, right? We haven't really interfaced this with our Express app. So for that, we go to the routes, movie stat route, and first we have to import the Express, and then we have to import all those controllers functions that we did, create an Express router, and define the methods and the routes that we need and export it. So right here, if we go to the root app and do a get method, get request, it will call the get movies controller to get all the movies that we have. If it's post, it will call the create movie. And if it's delete, call the delete movie. So it's we now have router, but it doesn't the app doesn't really know this router, right? So what we're going to do is expose that in our app. So I will import that as movie routes, and then use inject middleware for this. So what does this do is it's prefixing our route, the movie routes with the movies. So what's happening? Okay, I think I know the answer. Yeah. Okay. So here, if we go to the movies route, it should return all the movies list. So we're good with the backend. I know it's fast, but I will upload the code. It's already uploaded in the GitHub, so you might as well view it and learn. So okay, so we now have the backend completed. What we're gonna do is go to the front end. I'm gonna start the app with npm start. The app is created using the Create React app. So on our in our client folder, okay. So I hope it okay. So here's our client app. It's an SPA, a React app. So as you can see, we still don't have any results in our movies. So why? So in our components folder, I'll just close this one. We don't really need this one. In our components folder, we have this app.js where we just call the movie list. So if you're not familiar with React, everything is components. That's why it's called component-based architecture. So for our movie list, what we're doing is we're creating a component called movie list. This is another way of creating a component. This is called the function component because it's just a function. It's also, you can also create a component using class components, but at this time I think functional components are better than class components because it's less verbose. Okay, so if you could see here, I am returning an um, HTML like code, but this is really JavaScript because you can see there's some JavaScript code here. So this is the JSX that I've talked about earlier. So as you can see, I am using the use state. So I could have a stateful component with a functional component, but our use state is just an empty array. So that's why we don't have any data as of now. So what we're gonna do is call our backend, call our RESTful API to get those movies, just like what we discussed in the workflow earlier. So I'm gonna use the fetch API. So use the template literal here. So fetch API returns promise. So let's just use the .then and convert that to JSON. The rest.json also returns a promise. So here, and then do the catch. Let's use this one. Okay, so what we'll do with the data, where's my mouse? Sorry. Yeah, sorry about that. So now that we have the movies data, what we're gonna do is update the state of movies and assign the data that we retrieve. Okay. So right now, if you can see, we now have our movies list populated. And if you would notice here, it's using the JSON for our response. Cool. Okay. Now that we have a movie library here, and also one more thing is, if you refresh the app, it automatically loads the movies without ever reloading the page because it's spa. So upon doing that, we also have a form, the form component. So this add form component is basically this guide here. Okay, so what we're gonna do is every time the form submits, it calls the handle submit, and also that handle submit form calls the props on submit. So we assign that on submit props to this handle submit function here. So what we're gonna do is the same with what we did earlier. We're just gonna have to use the fetch API to call the create movie. So I'll just copy paste. It's too long. Sorry. All right. So using the same API URL /movies, instead of the get as default, we specify the post, and then the movie object is stringified, so it will be in JSON format, and also we'll add header application JSON. Okay, so now that now that we have the data, what we're gonna do is also update the state. So we will create a new array, separate data, and append the movies array. So we're gonna prepend the new movie in our array. So I have my okay. So let's try to add a movie. open sci-fi. I'll just copy paste this one. Okay, I think I inserted a bad. Let me try one more time. As you can see here, we have a post request, and it returns the created model. So even if we load the page, it is persistently saved in the database. So we won't have to worry with data persistency because we have the database tier in the MongoDB. Okay, so this is just one of the many leading technologies used in Manulife, like the MERN stack. But I'm really excited to introduce you to Manulife University. I'm a coach in Manulife University, Manila. So it's a career program. It's an educational and learning for program for Manulife employees. And if you are interested to be a part of our organization, you could join us at developer.manulife.ph. You've seen this earlier. It's the social media links. Visit that as well. And that's it. I hope you learned something today. And yeah, I'll give the floor to Ron.
Thanks for that, Maricar, for the great demo. What I'm gonna be presenting, just give me a second to share my screen. Okay. So what Maricar presented was the MERN stack, which is a really good one of the stacks that are being taught in the Manulife University, and yeah, like Maricar said, if you're really interested in that and joining Manulife, then that's something that's waiting for you when you start with Manulife. So um, my my talk is about how do we integrate, or how does it all go into development, how does it go into production. Like you create something in Manulife, you create something in the burn stack, how does that move into production? So I'm going to give you guys an overview of the development process in Manulife. Okay, so I'm Ron Del Sario. I'm the director of engineering with MEPS. So I'm in the operations engineering uh, organization within the Canadian division of technology in Manulife Canada. So the agenda would be focused on six main things. The first one is the overview of the front of the end-to-end uh, process of development in Manulife, from tickets, from Jira tickets, or from any kind of uh, project management tool up to production. So I'll give you a 10,000 feet view of that. Second would be the planning phase. Third, development. Fourth is how do we integrate that? How do we build that all into our servers or our environments? So that is continuous integration and continuous delivery along with monitoring. So, why one of the things that we wanted to focus on when we built this framework, when we built this flow, was to make everything easier for the developers. So, our focus was developer quality of life. So, a lot of things are automated, a lot of things are already created for the developers. We've created a lot of things just for you guys, just for developers who are in Manulife, so that they can focus on developing what matters and not focusing on other stuff that won't really matter in the long run for developers. So let's go to the 10,000 feet view of our development process. So in a nutshell, this is how it looks like. So there are five main phases of development. So the first one is of course planning. So and after planning, we do the actual coding. The third is we do the builds after the codes are committed into our source managers. Next is deploying it into our servers for them to be either shown publicly or privately within the Manulife organization. And last is after it's deployed, it should be monitored for performance management and also for any kind of troubleshooting or health monitoring of our applications. And you'll see here, um, I think some of you might be curious about why isn't there a test phase within like our development process. So in the typical development process, we are expecting our developers to integrate testing into their development. So we have a very heavy focus on unit testing. So that is what solves our need for testing. And we do have some cases where there are dedicated testing phases, but those are for other groups. But this is specific, it's not specific, but this is more for the general overview of how a typical development flow works. And you'll see here that the consistent theme is that everything that we do here, everything that is shown here, is to make your life easier as a developer of Manulife. So first go to planning. So most teams in Manulife, most development teams and organizations in Manulife are agile. So we do follow agile principles, and we do have like some some follow Scrum, some follow Agile, some follow Kanban, Agile methodologies, and the primary project management, or at least the ticket management tools that we use are from Atlassian, Jira Software, and Confluence. So Jira serves as our product backlog where devs and POs work together to build the product backlog. And we have Confluence as well to store all of our documents, our working documents, as well as our um, R&D like repositories where we keep any research output that we create during our sprints. And um, the focus also here, whenever we do planning, is as an agile team, we give the developers a very powerful voice. They are expected, and also they're expected to join the conversations. It doesn't matter if you're a junior up to a manager, even director level. Everyone has a voice, and um, that's what we want to cultivate when we do any kind of planning or development within Manulife. So this one is actually the heart of that workflow. So you'll see here that we divide it into four main groups. The first one is it's a one-time thing. So we do have tool sets, we do have tooling that helps development uh, or development cycles go faster. So one of that, or at least in those first parts here, is the Jenkins tooling, or the CI/CD, or continuous integration and continuous delivery pipeline tooling. So we use Jenkins as our pipeline, and we also have PCF, which is Pivotal Cloud Foundry, as our like you can say it's our all-in-one development platform where we do everything, where we push everything as a container, and it does the rest for us. It does all the networking, it does all of the bindings to other services. So, as a developer, you don't have to think too much about how you're going to how you're going to set up your Jenkins pipelines or your PCF bindings to whatever environment. So we have processes where these are automatically generated for you. So all of the pipelines from dev up to prod are generated for you. All you have to do is fill in the blanks of the variables that are needed in terms of your environment variables, or anything that is needed for your development to work. And then, it's also the same with PCF. It automatically generates uh, standard templates, or you can say, yeah, standard templates, or you could say it's also some sort of boilerplate that is generated for you, because these are the commonly used applications or packages that are used within Manulife development teams. And then we go here into the second part, which is where most of the magic happens. So, like Maricar mentioned, we do use the MERN stack, and in addition to the MERN stack, we are very heavily invested in unit testing everything. So I mentioned earlier that there's no official testing phase because all of our devs are expected to unit test their code either with Jest or any other popular unit testing framework that fits your development stack. And then also, continuing on with the theme of making things easier for the devs, we like to use Microsoft's Visual Studio Code because it's really lightweight. It's really great for JavaScript development, and the great thing about that is it also has a lot of extensions. Like it really helps in development. The ones that we really use a lot are ESLint for code review or code sanity as well, and SolarLint. SonarLint is also for static code analysis. So that really helps keep our devs uh, consistent in their coding because we're also very concerned about performance, code smells, and we want to keep our devs uh, keep them using our quality quality gates, if we're going to use the correct term. We want to allow our devs to look at what the quality is expected out of them using these extensions. And then for me, one of the most important things that needs to happen within the coding phase, and also really helps uplift quality within applications and within organizations are the code reviews. So code reviews in our organization are done after you develop. So after you push something into your source control manager or GitHub or GitLab or whatever is your favorite or your company's Git repository, it has to go through a review process, and it's non-negotiable in our case because we are uh, always emphasizing that everything needs to be reviewed, everything needs to be tested by the developer. So what happens during the code reviews is uh, two developers or more go in, look at the code, and just try to help each other fix the code or analyze the code for any kinds of optimizations, any kinds of refactoring that needs to happen within their coding. And then it's also a there's also in some groups, in some organizations in Manulife, they do have code pairs. So if you guys are familiar with the code pair, like pair programming, the ping pong programming like style, like sometimes devs would code uh, one of the pairs, or at least one of the people within the pairs would code, and then the second one would look and analyze and also recommend or even sometimes criticize why that code was written that way. And then of course they'd try to fix whatever thing or whatever recommendation was given by the second dev, and then it switches. So the second dev gets to do the coding, and the first dev uh, will do the review. And then the last part of our coding phase is the actual pushing of our code into GitLab or GitHub or whatever repository the company is using, or in Manulife's case, GitHub. And then an important thing that we follow, that we use so that everything is clean, everything is secure, is we use the Git flow strategy where branches are created separately for each kind of environment. So we have the master, which is the all important repository, which serves as the like the basis or the golden book of record of all our code. Then we have the development branch. We also have a release branch, and then we also have, more importantly, in my case, is the feature branches. So all of the devs are expected to create feature branches, which is their own little baby that they can take away from the development or from any other like upper uh, branch, so that they could play with it on their own and also create or enhance or maintain whatever code that they need to maintain. And then those eventually get merged back up into master or to the release branches, which is going to be pushed into production or into the other higher environments. So that is the coding phase. There's a lot that happens here, a lot of great things that focuses on on the coding. It focuses on quality, and then we go to, I think, my favorite part of the phase is the automation part of it or the build part of it. So our builds are all done by Jenkins. So we do have, like I mentioned earlier, we do have a set of tooling or tool sets that already give you what you need in terms of pipelines. So these pipelines are like specific to a production pipeline, to a dev pipeline, to a release, to a test, to a UAT. So all of those are already generated for you. All you have to do is fill in the blanks, like I said. And in our pipeline, what it looks like is it looks like this. It's a three-way pipeline. So in our pipeline, whenever anything gets posted or anything gets pushed into GitHub, we automatically get that via webhooks and start the analysis or start the build of that code. And it's done in three ways. It's done through three important gates that we maintain. The first one is the open source governance gate. Second one is the code review or the code quality gate. And third is also a very important gate, security. So these are all gates that function for different things. Like for example, Sneak, it does the open source governance. One of the things that is very prevalent, especially with JavaScript development and even with other development stacks, is there's a lot of open source packages that people or devs download, and that sometimes comprises, let's say, even 50 or even more than that in terms of the code base of our application. So it's very important that we ensure that those open source packages are fit to run and they don't cause any vulnerabilities for our applications, because Manulife is very careful about the code quality and also code security, and it doesn't want any vulnerabilities. And related to that is there is also security. There's also a security gate, which does a very intensive kind of testing as well. It tests the code for a lot of the known vulnerabilities that are common within developers, like OWASP and other things like that. It tests for that, and it all gives you reports that you could take action on. It could also give you some recommendations of how you could close those vulnerabilities or issues. And then in the middle is the quality gate. So, like I said earlier, we do always unit test every single part of our applications. So, if your code doesn't meet our standards, if it doesn't have unit tests, it's going to automatically fail, and you'll have to create a unit test for that. The reason why we do that is we want to ensure that your code passes according to the acceptance criteria that your team has set during the planning phase, and it also will not break anything once it's integrated into your pipelines. And then after everything is tested and everything is okay, it goes through SonarQube, which does the static code analysis. So this one tests all of the code smells. If you're familiar with the term, code smells are like development. You can even say there are technical debt, things that developers pile up during the years or during the months that they are developing. So examples of that are like really long code. Like there's one, for example, you have controllers or you have a JS file that's like 100,000 lines of code. That's bad practice, and it should be reduced or it should be refactored. And then there's also like duplicate code. So sometimes it needs to happen like in especially in early stages of development, but later on you have to go on and refactor all of those codes so that you don't unnecessarily burden your application with duplicate code. And there's also dead variables and dead code that it helps identify. And all of these applications here, all of these services give out reports which help you take action and recommendations to fix all of the things that they see here. So all of these need to pass before they get built. Finally, they get packaged, and if any one of these fail, you have to go back to your code, go back to the development phase and fix your code. So once everything is fixed, they get packaged into binaries, which are sent over to our artifact repository, which we use Artifactory. So if you're not familiar with what Artifactory it is a package or an artifact management service. It's similar to Maven or similar to MPN, if anyone's used that before. But the advantage of it is it's able to service, or it's able to manage or even store multiple kinds of packages. So it doesn't care if it's coming from, if it's a .NET package, if it's a Node package, if it's a even I think even mainframe application. It can do that. It can package. It can store all of those builds within Artifactory. And another one that's good for that is it allows for cached binary. So whenever you need something for deployment, if it's there in the cache, you don't have to download it all over again, or at least the latency in terms of downloading that artifacts or those artifacts are faster than you don't have to rebuild everything over and over again just to get something deployed. And then there's also another advantage to this service is it is very highly available. So it is like it's cloud based, and it follows cloud principles of being highly available. So whenever you need something, it's tied up to the caching thing. So uh, we always try to give our developers or our servers the fastest and always the highest available builds possible. And finally, we have the deploy and monitor phase of the application development cycle. So um, in the last phase, everything was stored in Artifactory. So in this case, there are some ways, or there are some practices that other organizations in within Manulife and even in other companies do it. So in some of them, it is semi-automated, and some it's fully automated. So it really depends on the confidence level of the teams of the organizations which do CI/CD. So all of this can be fully automated, but it can also be semi-automated. And when I say semi-automated, this can be like automated or at least deployed or promoted via a button or via a request via the CLI or something like that. It really depends. It really depends on your organization. And then I mentioned promotion. So what happens is whenever you have a dev build that's successful, coming from Jenkins in the other phase, it gets pushed to Artifactory, and then Artifactory pushes it into our Cloud Foundry spaces or organizations, and those are the ones that are publicly shown or privately or internally shown within the company. So Cloud Foundry does all of the things that you need to expose it to the public or internally. So it does all the networking, it does all the containerization, it does all of the bindings. So all you really need to do is pass the binaries that you created in the previous step. And then for it to be promoted into like for example from dev going to test, usually devs would come into Jenkins and then trigger the pipeline for promotion. So that gets pushed from dev up to test, and then again, if everything is okay within test, we'll go again for promotion into the prod environment. So we do have two organizational environments. One is for prod and one is for non-prod. So going into prod, we have to always go through UAT. So UAT is where our most of our customers or even like stakeholders would come in and check our code or check our applications or services. I mean, everything's okay there. Again, we go for another promotion request, which goes back into Jenkins and Artifactory and generates the build that would be used for production. And then, of course, that doesn't end there. So after everything is in production, we're always very concerned about how our applications or our services perform after deployment. So to help us with that, we have two kinds of monitoring. One is through APMs or application performance management services like New Relic, and we also have logging tools like the ELK stack, which is Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana, which helps us uh, be informed about the health of our applications. Okay, so that's it for me. Like Maricar said, all of like the MERN stack and actually all of this is taught in Manulife University from the very beginning, from the planning stage to the coding to the build. We give everyone an overview and even practice sessions and instructor-led sessions where you can actually experience the whole Manulife workflow hands-on. So this is what you'll be expecting to learn from A to Z. So that's how we usually pamper our devs whenever we have new devs joining Manulife and joining Manulife University. So that's me. Thanks for that. And
That was a lot, Ron. I'll take your rest for a while. I'm sure our viewers have learned a lot both from Maricar and Ron, given that they have shared to us on, this is again ideal for developers who wants to learn a modern web development stack
I think
using
we
JavaScript.
have, yeah, go.
Yeah, and I know we do have questions. And then yeah, let's try to answer some questions coming from our viewers. So we have question from Raymar and Teria. How do you handle merge conflicts? So I think this is a question for either Maricar or for Ron.
Merge conflicts we usually get together. These are usually encountered during pull requests or merge requests. Whenever there are any possible merge or conflicts, well, we can't sit down together, but we go on calls together. We figure out what's causing the issues, and then figure it out. Work together to remove the conflict to make everything green again and make it pass.
All right, thanks, Ron. We also have another question from Jamie. Hello, Miss Maricar. Can you please share the GitHub repo?
Hello. Yeah. Sure. It's available. Can I just copy and paste this link? I'm not sure if it's be available to them, but I sent the link in the chat. But if it's
Yeah,
Maricar slash MERN dash movie dash library,
yeah.
I
Again,
hope the
that's
organizers can broadcast that.
yeah. Thank you, Maricar. Definitely will share the link for everyone to see it. Last question coming from. Let's just wait for the next question. By the way, we still have a couple of, we have one game. So coming from John Eric Siguenza, what is your view about TypeScript? And does Manulife devs use it? Can I have either Maricar or Ron answer the question?
You want to answer that
Marikar,
one, or all
I
right?
think you have
All
more
right.
experience in types. No,
Yeah,
go ahead.
TypeScript is basically another layer. It's built on top of JavaScript, right? So it has its own pros and cons. Uh, for the question, does Manulife devs use it? They have the autonomy to use it or not, depending on their squads. But as of now, we're using ES the latest ES 2017.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I hope we were able to answer John's question. So, as mentioned a while ago, again, thank you, Ron and Maricar, for sharing your insights to all of our viewers. As promised, we still have one game to go after this. We do have, and the winner will have a chance to win 5,000 pesos worth of gift certificates. So, please ready your mobile phones or laptops because we're going to present right now the mechanics of the game. Over to you, Ken.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chicho. So as mentioned, the price would be 5,000 GC for the game. It would be Slido. Let me just show my screen real quick. Just let me know if you're able to see it. Oh, 1 sec. Okay. Okay, just you just need to go to slido.com. You can either scan the QR code or type the code hashtag PHTech with 2021. I think we have one player, Ken. Okay, let's just wait for the others to join. Again, the price would be 5,000 GC. So we have Jamie. I hope all can join the game because the price is really um big, 5,000 GC. Five, seven participants. I'm still looking for more. I think we have 13, as mentioned a while ago.
for for a
Okay,
couple
eight.
of people to join.
So 10, three more if possible, or 12. So just one.
Yeah, this is really exciting. So it's a
So
small.
in the interest, 15. Okay,
All right.
17 and
Oh,
18. I think we can extend up to 5 minutes more, right? Just to make sure that all of them can can join the event
yeah. I hope everybody
or the
learned a
game
lot
rather.
from Maricar and Ron.
So
I know
okay,
they're.
so in the interest of time, maybe we can start. So the first question is, what is the programming language used in MERN? Is it Java, JavaScript, C under C
C
number sign,
sharp.
or Ruby? So for
Mhm.
20 seconds, just key in your answer. I think this was discussed by Maricar a while ago. So 76% answered JavaScript, and the correct answer is JavaScript. So on the leaderboard, the number one is Rome Cañete. So the second question, what is the database used in MERN stock? Is it MS SQL, SQLite, MySQL, or MongoDB? So for 20 seconds, key in your answer.
I'm sure they know the answers here.
Okay, most of them, almost 95% answered MongoDB. And the answer is MongoDB. So let's show who's on the leaderboard. It's now John P. And the third question is, which special key acts as a primary key is added to MongoDB in each document of a collection? Is it underscore key, underscore ID, underscore rank, underscore score? It's kind of tongue twister, the underscore score.
Yeah, I'm
So let's
sure.
see what's the correct answer. So almost 58%. It's kind of tie break the underscore key and underscore ID. So let's reveal the correct answer. So it's underscore ID for 58%.
Oh,
So
interesting.
almost more than half. Let's show on the leaderboard who is leading. It's still John P, who got three almost all correct answers. So the next question is, the term JSON refers to JavaScript object notation, JavaScript on demand, Java Object Notation, or Java On Demand? So for 20 seconds, key in your answer. So let's reveal the answer. So almost all answer the first one, the JavaScript Object Notation, and it is the correct answer. So let's reveal the leaderboard. It's now Jamie Series on the number one spot. The next question is, what is the express.js used for? Is it to run JavaScript outside of a browser, an object data modeling library for MongoDB and Node.js, or it serves as a back-end application framework for Node.js, or none of the above? I think this
Let's see what's
question
the
is kind of
correct.
tricky.
Let's see the answer. And the correct
Hmm.
answer is serves
Most
as
of
a
them
back.
answer serves as a back-end application framework for Node.js, and it is the correct answer. So who's on the leaderboard? On the number one spot, it's Mar.
Oh, new name.
So the next question is, which is that a technology of the mean stack? Is it Angular, MongoDB, Node.js, or React? This was discussed by Maricar, if I'm not mistaken, a while ago. So for 20 seconds, key in your answer. So for 54%, most of them answer React. And the answer is yes, it's React. So who's on the leaderboard? Still Mar on the number one spot. So the fastest you key in your answer, and if it's correct, so the highest points that you'll get. So the next question is, what is used in React to easily write HTML and JavaScript together? Is it JSX, JSON, BSON, or XML? This question is kind of tricky as well. Hmm. Almost half, almost 50% answered JSON. Is it the correct answer?
Oh,
Oh, it's JSX. Still on the number one spot is Mar. So the next question is, what does CI/CD stand for? Is it constant integration, constant deployment, continuous integration, continuous deployment, continuous integration, continuous delivery, constant integration, or constant delivery? It's kind of tongue twister again. So most of them answered. Oh, it's a tie. The second one and the third one, but the correct answer is the second one, the continuous integration or continuous integration, continuous deployment for 44% of the participants. Still on the number one spot is Mar. The next question, second to the last question, which is not part of a typical development flow? Is it code, organize, build, or deploy? It's kind of acronym COBD. So which one is the correct answer for 20 seconds? Just key in your answer. The fastest you key in your answer, and if it's correct, the the more points that you'll get. So for 78%, most of them answered organize. Is it organize? Yes, it is. On the leaderboard, the number one spot, the unbeatable Mar. All of the answers that he or she key in are all correct. And the last question, which site you visit to explore opportunities at Manulife? This was discussed by Chicho on the opening statement. Is it developer.manulife.ph, developer.manulife.com, dev.manulife.ph, or developer.mu.ph?
you guys better know this.
So the correct answer is For 74%, most of the participants answered the first one, the developer.manulife.ph. Is it the first one? Yes, it is.
Nice.
And Mar got the highest points, so he wins the game. And then again, for the winner, please reach out to hello@phcommunity.org with the subject line Manulife Raffle. We will write it down on the comment. Just send in an email so that we can coordinate it with you for you to claim the GC prize.
All right.
Back to you, Cheech.
Thank you so much, Kenneth, and thank you to all the participants of this pocket event. We hope that you learned a lot from this session. And if you wanted to know more about Manulife, please go to developer.manulife.ph. And again, see you soon. Thank you so much.